Welcome to I Finance Mortgage. I'm your host, Tiffanie Phillips, and today I have a very good long-term friend of mine, Ingrid Hooker.
Hey,
thank you so much for joining me today.
Of course.
I can definitely vouch. Ingrid is amazing. She, really does. I've been watching this whole, even the last few years, transformation, but also just, I believe that we go way back to sixth grade. So just to see the progression puts her heart and, passion into everything. And now also, and it shows through real estate. So I'm so glad that you're here today so you can share a little bit of that with us and that we can help our buyers, sellers, investors navigate this market.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then so Ingrid is with the Foster Company. She specializes in residential and commercial. So she's also going to be doing business acquisitions, which that is newer, right? So that's been a step up for you.
Yeah,
so
it's been a change for sure.
Yes. So to get started here, why don't you kind of tell us how you got, what led you into real estate and how long you've kind of, how long you've been in it and just kind of that progression that you've had.
Okay. So I actually graduated from Arizona State in social work. I had no idea what I was going to do in life. I was like, what am I good at?
Yeah.
People. I'm good with
You
people.
are.
I like helping people.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's just do social work. And I was in that field for a while, transitioned into marketing and love the creative space and being able to bring ideas to life. And then through marketing, it was just an easy shift. I got asked to help with open houses, literally just opening doors. They were like, Ingrid, you're so friendly. Can you come
Get
help
our
us
clients
open doors?
in here.
We don't have enough people to help open doors. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, absolutely. All I have to do is just let people in the door
just
and smile and say hi to them. Easy. And then that same company actually hired me on to help with their marketing. And I was there for a while. So originally that was 2015.
Wow.
And then I transitioned full time into marketing officially in 2018-19. And so it's been a few years for sure. I never thought of myself as a salesperson.
Yeah.
It was never oh no, I don't do sales. I'm not salesy. And then I had a mentor who was incredible, and she said, Ingrid, you don't have to be a salesperson to help people. And she's like, it's what you do. It naturally is an easy progression for you to help them. And you're genuine about it. You actually want to help them find a home or sell their home. So why are you feeling so uncomfortable about sales? It's not sales, you're helping. And that really helped me shift my mindset from, I am helping. And one of the things that she said was, there are a lot of people in real estate who are in it for the money, which is 100% true.
Yep.
And are they really going to help them? Probably not. They want to close the deal. You genuinely want to help, and you're doing people a disservice by not sharing that this is something that you love doing because you're so afraid of people kind of judging you as a salesperson. At the end of the day, go out there, help people, do the best that you can. And so that was kind of my transition into real estate mentally and physically.
That's amazing. And it just shows too, what I get from what she's saying is, there's a lot of agents out there that are just money. But the thing about you is that you're just building that relationship. So she could already, I feel that. So she could already see you in a long term, you're never really going to have to worry about selling because you're going to give such, they're going to feel so genuine and that you were on their side that first time, that it's just your career is going to keep growing and growing and not having to focus on all the numbers and chasing the clientele. They're going to come to you.
And I've been very fortunate that I've built such beautiful relationships with a lot of my clients. I do consider them friends. I love going to their houses. I love seeing everything that they've done to them. Or even my clients who have sold their homes, like knowing that now they're in either a dream home or, they've retired and they're on a cruise every other month. Like, I love all of the relationship
just the
part of it.
And when you get that call, like, all right, like, I'm ready for my investment now, like, I'm ready for this, I'm ready for this. And, I also just love those kind of like down the line, how, like, just that follow up with them, like that friendship that just keeps going. So
and I think one of the things that I try to emphasize, while we're still either in escrow with their home or we're in escrow with their purchase, is investing. How are you going to move this money around for the sellers, and then for my buyers, hey, let's think long term. Keep saving. You guys did a fantastic job in saving for this home, but let's not stop here, because that's how we're going to build wealth. And we know that our generation is not going to have Social Security. And yes, we have retirement funds, but realistically, are those going to last as long as we need them to last? So I kind of plant the seed way in advance so that they can prepare themselves, because an investment is a lot for somebody to take on too.
Yes. And you kind of set them up, which brings me to my next, that you have created this like niche for both. So for residential and commercial. So now that you were in both, I do see that you've planted that seed kind of early on. Is there any other ways that these two kind of complement each other?
Absolutely. 100%. Actually, the reason I got into commercial was because I have clients who I've helped build their Airbnb portfolio. I have clients who are selling their houses to purchase businesses. I have clients who have buildings that have reached out, hey, Ingrid, like, who can I go to? What do I do? And I'm like I don't know. I don't know, because I do homes, I sell homes. And so let me figure it out for you. Let me see who I can refer this out to that can actually assist you, because I really do believe, yes, I could sit here and help you, but I'm not an expert in it. So I rather do you a service and like have you go with somebody who's an expert. But through it, a lot of my clients were like, no, Ingrid, like, we trust you. We want
they don't want
your
to go
help
anywhere else.
And so I'm like, okay, no problem. Let me hit the book. Let me go to
That's
YouTube.
amazing.
Let me do my research. Let me talk to, different agents in this space. And most importantly, Chris, which is my broker, like, he's been incredible and really. How
did you find them on your journey? Like, did you like find them in your research, or were you like referred?
I actually saw a presentation.
Wow.
Yeah. I had a friend who had seen a presentation of them, of the foster company, and they were like, Ingrid, you have to check this out. Like, this is totally up your alley. You're going to love him. You're going to love the energy of the foster company as a whole. Like, you have to check them out. And then Mark, which is another lender that I work with, he had transitioned into that company too. And I was like, this is great. Like, I trust you. If you think that this is a great company, let's check it out. I went to an event, I saw Chris speak, and I was like, all right, like, he's a man of faith, which is important to me, and on top of everything, he cares. Like, he actually cares.
Like the genuine, like, you felt kind of home, like, you're like, this is my vibe.
Yes, exactly.
I could see that.
And he was like, all right, like, you want to learn, I'm going to teach you. And I was like, perfect. You've been in the business 25 years, like, who else do I want to learn from than from you? So that's kind of how I transitioned into the commercial space, and now I'm there with some of my best friends. My boyfriend works there as well, and so it just kind of worked out.
That's perfect. And then now you can assist all of these all of your already clients, because they don't want to go anywhere else, especially if they have that, because then they have to worry about, what if they get somebody transactional? That's like a huge... It changes their whole experience.
Absolutely. And I think in the commercial space, really the leaders of that space are huge corporations, brokerages, companies. And I would say boutique commercial companies are not much of a thing. So it's nice to be in this environment where it's a home, it's a family, and everybody's like, all right, how do we help all of our clients?
Like on all the things that they need.
All the levels.
Let's get them in their home. Let's get them in their portfolios. Let's get their business and just kind of keep them, like give them a home for I love that aspect of thinking of it like that. Yeah. It's like once we get a client, it's like whatever they need, you just get it all covered. So
which is, I think,
like throughout their life. Like they don't need to go anywhere else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so absolutely. That's like to build that. And then also, you are an investor yourself. So how does this experience influence the way that you advise your clients, on their real estate ventures?
It influences it a lot.
Yeah.
I opened escrow on 4 units in 2020, in March of 2020.
Wow. So when everything was going on.
Literally
were you nervous? How was that? Yeah.
Well, I opened escrow the week before, everything got shut down.
March. Oh, wow.
Yeah, so,
okay.
Everything got shut down the next week, and I was like, do I move forward? Do I not move forward? I'm advising my clients to move forward because I think this is still a good investment. So I'm going to walk the walk and talk the talk.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do this. So I moved forward, didn't close escrow until August of 2020. Didn't get a chance to do inspections because the tenants were COVID. So I was like, all right, well, we're just going to pull the trigger. And honestly, to this day, it has been a lot of work, a lot of learning. It's been a great journey, though, because anything that basically could go wrong went wrong, which is okay.
Because you learned.
I knew what I was getting into. And as a real estate professional, I'm okay with it. I know that sometimes maybe a buyer may be a little hesitant about it. But I was like, all right, let's do this. Everything has a solution. I'm going to figure it out. And right now, honestly, it's one of the best decisions of my life. So I still very much think, regardless of all of the hiccups and obstacles, it was a great investment.
Do you have tenants in all 4 units by now? Okay.
Yeah.
It took you, how long did it take you? I've been following her on Instagram for quite a while. So I did get to see some of the videos or you actually remodeling them and, what have you. So how long did it take to get pretty much all the way up to 4 completed? Did you do one? Did you do one at a time or kind of all together?
Yeah.
How was that? What do you think now? Would you have kind of done it differently with the remodels?
No. Okay. So I did the 3 units first.
Okay.
But again, mid-COVID, we're in the midst of COVID. So
so supplies were down, materials were down. I believe, I'm trying to think of if that was, it might have been 21, but lumber, it was a shortage.
Not just
all
the shortage, but it tripled, quadrupled in price.
Everything went up. I remember that we couldn't, the builds were pushed back. Some of our people were in escrow for 60, 90 days, even past that. So I could imagine being on your own. Because those were big builds that couldn't get materials. So to be a
mom and pop,
a single investor to get materials, that was probably, did that say, how much time do you think that probably set you back a bit in that time?
It set me back a good bit because there were times where they'd be okay, these floors are going to be in, and it's okay, great, the floors are in, but they're enough for a unit and a half, and now I have to wait for another unit and a half of flooring to come in. It's okay.
I know.
So it was just a lot of little things.
Yeah.
Even with the contractors, they were slammed with work too.
Yes.
And so getting a contractor to come out to do things the right way, because at the end of the day, I really wanted units that were safe, that were
like
in
livable.
good condition.
Yeah.
That they weren't just flipped. I wanted them to be solid units for somebody to live in them long term, or even if they were going to be there for a few months. I wanted it to feel like home.
Yeah.
And so it took a long time.
Yeah.
I think my last unit was done at the beginning of 2023.
Oh, okay. But so still you've had them all of 2023. They were.
The back three were done, I would say like mid 2021.
Okay.
I did have to kind of go through an eviction process and some other stuff. But beside that, they were done 2021. And then the front unit was like a whole project in itself. It's a 3-bedroom, so it's a house big, basically, so from the foundation, and it's on a slab, so I needed like 3 inches of brand new concrete, but then there was like this huge gash in the middle that was like a foot deep, and I'm like, how does that happen? But yeah, so getting everything going, it just took a while to get everything moving, and I funded the project, so it's not like I'm I have other
like raised,
investors or etc.
This
so
was
like,
just all you at the time.
my hard work. Yeah.
Oh man, but that is so 4 units. And that's in California, right?
Yes.
So everything was in California.
It's in Coachella Valley.
Well, oh, that's good. Mm-hmm. So when is that, like around the area, like by Indio?
It's actually in Indio. The units are in Indio.
So like, but it's not like an Airbnb. Do you Airbnb? No.
No, okay. I don't.
So you did a long-term
They're
rental.
long-term rentals, yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting because this pocket is such a small pocket of like old Indio. This house was built in the 1930s, and it used to be a strawberry farm, and so it's sitting on like almost a little over half an acre, which is so much land, which is one of the things that honestly did not come into consideration when I budgeted for it.
Oh man.
Because to landscape 13,000 square feet of land
is
and that's just one side, the other side is a whole nother story. So I was like, oh man, this is something that I did not take into
like
consideration.
The actual lot size.
The lot size and how much actual just open
like
land
you would
there was.
Need. Oh my God. I would not. And I feel like, that wouldn't just come to my mind, like the landscaping piece. Now at this point, having the 4 units, 4 years in, or about like 4 years in, do you have your contractor?
Yeah.
Like, do you now you have your contractor?
Yes.
I just talked to another investor that they're like, that was probably one of the hardest, journeys, really finding the right team.
Yes.
To help you with the investment. So now, do you feel more confident like getting the next one? It's like, okay, now you have your team and you've been through all that experience. So, And then also, I do just want to make a quick note for 2020. So you got that. Rates were low. So you probably are in an amazing
3%,
rate. 3%. Oh my God, on a 4 unit in California. That's super. And for your first investment. Yeah. And then how much appreciation since then? Have you I believe it's gone up like 7% each year.
I haven't
ran
even the numbers.
Yeah. But just like ballpark, do you think you've like already kind of tripled? I feel like I've heard that a lot, like kind of tripled investment.
Triple would be a strong word.
Yeah.
The desert is also a little bit of a different
a different
area
build
than
and you put in for
areas.
Like cost to repair.
Yeah. So I would say maybe like 2.5.
Okay.
Which is still great.
Which is amazing.
Great.
In 4 years.
Yeah.
It'd be 0 if you never took that plunge. And that's what, when we're trying to get people to kind of step out of the comfort zone and get into the investments, it's like it would have been none. Yeah. So like 2.5, that's amazing. And you even I'm sure that kind of balances out some of the cost.
Yeah, honestly it does.
All right. And into our current market with our buyers and sellers. So obviously, you know, we've been following along. It's been a tricky time trying to navigate. A lot of the media, the feds go on and they, you know, I think it adds a lot of fear, but it also adds a lot of hope. In December, they said they're going to cut it 6 times. And then, and then we got a little cut in January, and then it went back up in February. So, and then they said they're going to pump the brakes. And now I think most are anticipating, I feel strongly that we're getting close, April, May. I feel like I follow a lot of top economists, top CEOs of like big lending companies daily, and I feel like that's a good vibe. But ultimately, I think originally from the feds, it wasn't going to be until like July. So really up in the air there. But how do you guide your buyers that are on the sidelines that are, or maybe, I'm sure you've heard, like, we're waiting, you know, they're going to wait for that drop.
It's tricky because I think each situation is a little different. I definitely think that if a drop's going to happen, April, May would be the time for it to occur. Yeah. We know that the market heats up end of spring. Yeah. Summer is hot, and it's going to cool off a little bit come September. So I think from a standpoint of, we know that there are a lot of people in the market during this period. That would be the best period for the rates to drop for everybody. But of course, that would be ideal. Yeah. I don't know if it's going to happen or not.
I'm hoping at least, like, give us a little baby one in April.
I mean, we just had a little bit of a drop, so that was nice.
Let's, a little more. A little more. Let's do it a little more. And then get a lot of people off those sidelines. But are you how are you kind of guiding them? Like,
so one of the things that I like to share with them is, okay, what is your goal? Because that is the most important thing. If you're like, hey, I'm going to just hold off, cool, no problem. Yeah. But I have sellers, for example, that are moving out of state. Yep. It's happening left and right. I'm sure you have clients as well. And so, great, like, we can wait for the rates to drop and for your house to get more, maybe. Maybe.
So sellers are kind of waiting. So they're kind of waiting because I feel like we kind of keep saying, like, oh, when the rates drop, the prices are going to go up. Yes. So now that we've kind of anticipated that, now they're starting to.
So they're like, oh, well, I can maximize. Like, let me just hold off.
Okay, then let me wait. Yeah.
But you're still moving out of state. It's still a big move. And prices are going to drop. You're going to make more money.
But also, you'll be getting your new house.
But does that even out?
Yeah. But then your new house will still be more too.
Exactly.
Ultimately, when you're a seller, odds are, like, some people, I understand a lot of sales occur that you're not going to be buying another property. But the majority of when you're buying a residential home, you're going to be selling and buying. Yeah. So ultimately, and I just had a friend text me kind of asking that question, like, hey, it doesn't really matter, when. And I'm like, well, you're still going to have to be on the buying side,
And so that's I think that's the key right there. Yeah. It's okay, we can wait. That's not a problem. You can get a lower interest rate, sure. Or we can sell your house right now. Yeah. Purchase in wherever you're going, because you're still going to be okay. Yeah. The thing about California and why people hate us, which I understand, they're still, whatever their equity is, even if they purchased 4 years ago, that equity in another state can still buy a whole house.
Yes, 100%.
So they're going to be okay no matter what. And even if they have a loan, and it's at a higher interest rate right now, they can still refinance and they can still lower that payment. So it's really not that big of a difference whether you wait right now to sell your house or you wait 6 months from now when the rates drop. Like, you're still going to have to, it evens out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with buyers, my thing with buyers is always, if it works for you.
Like, now is the time.
Like, right now is the time if it works for you. Some people Their families are expanding and they need more space. Some people, they broke a leg and they need one story. So it's always like when the time is right for you, it's the right time to buy. Don't worry about the rates. Don't worry about and I tell them all the time, don't worry about what the market is doing. If you can afford your mortgage, that is our primary goal.
If you can afford this payment, focus. I try to get them to focus on their goal. Like, I'm very goal oriented. So I'm like, let's build the roadmap. Like, where are you, first of all? First of all, let's start there. Like, and if this is your goal, then just like any other goal, you have to be willing to, almost like sacrifice, or, it's not easy to reach any goal, or like if you're setting goals to get you to a bigger position, a better position, anything, it's going to take sacrifice. Like if you want to be great at a sport, what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to dedicate most of your time to learning that,
Yeah.
So it's like same kind of thing. You may have to cut back, like, they are higher. So you may have to sacrifice, maybe even a year, or, go a little more minimal. Mm-hmm. But if you can do that, then as soon as they do drop, we can
take advantage of that.
Do the refinance.
And your principal.
You got equity in your home.
Yeah, and your principal was lower than it would have been if you're purchasing when the interest rates are lower. Like all around, like I always say, it's just when it's the right time for you.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter what the market is doing.
No.
If you can afford it, I suggest you do
Just get in, because you're every day you're basically losing that equity, like that building for to build wealth.
Yeah.
So it's like it starts the moment you get in there. Mm-hmm. And then instead it's either you're going to put it in this jar of yours, or it's going to the landlord.
Yeah.
And you're not getting any of that. You'll get that one day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I try to kind of do it like that to them as well.
I think it's interesting, and I've seen it more recently. I have clients that have been on the market since 2020, and they're like waiting for this and they're waiting for that. At this point, if you've been in the market for a few years, from 2020 to 2024, you've seen the low interest rates, you've seen the high interest rates, you've seen it all.
They didn't get in at 2020?
They're like, no, we're not going to pay $50,000 over asking. That's just, we're not going to do that. We're going to wait for the market to maybe drop, right? Prices have to drop. And everybody was like, prices have to drop.
No.
And to this day, prices are not dropping. So
nothing's dropped, really.
So you just have to make the decision. Yeah, you have to just make the decision.
But that's like everything.
You've seen every market. Like when there's not going to be an ideal time to get in, you just have to get in. But that's why
we have to redirect it to them. Mm-hmm. It's like, again, it's like it has to be your goal. Like, are you going to tie down to these terms that you need in order to get there and to weather the market a little bit? Like, what are you willing to kind of for your family in the long run? So ultimately, I feel like it's when they kind of see it like that, it's like it takes it off of just like the high rates and the absolutely. Let's focus on the goal.
Yeah. And you and I are both so goal oriented.
I know. I'm like, I have goals for everything. It's like daily, hourly, like hourly goals, daily goals, weekly goals. It just keeps me, but I have so much energy that it's like now, as long as I, and I just put it to even to like how many people I'm going to help today, like I have little goals for that too, but it keeps it moving in the right direction. Yeah. So I try to get, my clients like that to more get in that mode when it comes to real estate or investing.
Yeah.
Or like, how can we turn it around like that? So you're not getting clouded from all the media and the market. Like, everything's going to turn. What's important is you and your family. Where do you want to be? Where are you and where do you want to be?
Yeah.
And then
100%.
we can, and everybody starts in different spots.
Yeah.
There could be somebody with an 800 credit and money in the bank. It's going to be a different experience and a different process to somebody that maybe has like in between 400 and 500. however, it is definitely not impossible. It's just going
No.
to be it's going to be a different road.
Yeah.
You know, but if you have the right people, like realtor, like you said, you're still talking to those people for like 4 years.
Yeah.
Because when they are ready, Ingrid's going to be there.
I am.
Ingrid's going to be there with the house that is perfect for them. And I have like no doubt in my mind, when they are finally ready, Ingrid will be there.
Yeah.
To get them the best deal in the best spot and guide them the whole way. So
That's what
like
I'm here
no
for.
doubt, no doubt in my mind. And then let's see. So there is something that I want to touch on. I'm going to have you give a little more advice, but just how I do want to highlight something about the realtors right now. You know, with all the media going on, what I would like to kind of highlight around what makes that importance on what a realtor brings for their clients. You know, what really highlight around our realtors that are out there, like you and your team and your company. You know, you guys are really building that home for them for whatever they need. They can get their home, their investments, their portfolio, their business, everything there.
Yeah.
But ultimately, when you are working with your buyers and sellers, what should they be expecting for that full service from their realtor?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm going to kind of talk in general terms.
Yeah.
I think that in terms of being able to help a client, you have to have a well-rounded realtor.
Yep.
And honestly, I think this goes for any industry that you're in.
Yeah.
I think that you need to be knowledgeable. And how do you stay knowledgeable? You're reading articles, you're attending seminars, you're doing all of the things to stay on top of what's happening in your industry. And you're innovative. You're going to continue to do the things that need to get done to help the client. And so I think, you know, when we see, for example, a for sale by owner, it's almost like going to court and representing yourself. Like, could you do it? Sure.
But it may cost you. It may cost you later.
Absolutely.
It may cost you down the line. I hear a lot of horror stories.
Unfortunately, we hear them all the time.
Yes.
And it's, you know, it's kind of like, you know, lawyer went to school for this. This is
Yes.
their trade. This
And
is
they
what
know the tips and the tricks.
Yeah, this is what they're doing day in and day out. So they know the loopholes. They know everything that needs to get done for this client to win. But the client knows what they know. Like, you can go on YouTube, you can do all of this to an extent. So I think that's kind of
100%. That's probably what they do. They're like, I got this.
I saw it on YouTube.
I feel like I became a business owner from YouTube. So like, I'm all about YouTube.
Oh, me too.
I put everything.
Me too.
I learn. I love teaching myself now. Like, it does feel possible with YouTube. Like,
it
you get a breakdown.
Does.
I've learned systems through there. Like,
it absolutely feels possible.
100%.
But again, there are certain
still,
things you can't learn. Can I learn how to, change a window? Sure. Am I going to do a good job at it? Probably not. You know, like somebody professional should probably come and take care of that.
Probably 100%. Yeah.
So I think just at the end of the day, the job of a realtor is to be a professional in that industry, to be knowledgeable in that industry. I know about laws that are coming into effect in November that most people don't know. But that's because I'm making sure to be on top of that. And it's not their job to be on top of it, but it is mine, you know.
And now you can set that expectation. Be like, hey, I know you're planning to do that, but it's
like, don't
do it. Make sure, don't. And make sure we do it before. Or see, and then maybe they would be waiting. And so like for the, like, what would you say when you're listing the house, or even if you're showing the house, like what are your main, like when it comes to negotiations and like things like that?
As far as negotiations, what do you?
So like for the negotiation. So when you're kind of stepping in and kind of taking over and like guiding them through these processes, like when kind of people think that they can do it on themselves, do it by themselves, like for the first sell by owners, the thing that scares me a bit with the first sell by owners is I've worked with first sell by owners. I've done the loans, but they don't have, I tell them, and like my old company, they would give us it was like one sheet of paper, like it was one sheet of paper for this, for the agreement, for like the contract. And they had me like give this, like they could use it if the title company wouldn't help them, or if they didn't have a realtor and nobody would help them. And it was just pretty crazy to me, because when the realtors send me contracts, they're like 17 pages. And I was like, how is this possible? Like what is happening in this like one page? Yeah. So have you kind of seen, so like what is that? You know, maybe like give a little background of really a couple of the clauses that are going to save them later. Yeah. That you guys as realtors cover, that like that sheet of paper does not, and maybe like things that come up later.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's crazy that one sheet of paper is there to protect the seller, because that's basically what the contract is, right? It's to protect the buyer, that everything is being done ethically, to protect the seller, that everybody in the transaction is being ethical as well, that the buyer is going to say, hey, we're going to pay you this much, and that they're going to follow through. So when you don't have any of those protections, and somebody off the street comes up and says, hey, I'll give you $10,000 if you move out today, because I just want to see the house vacant, and then I'll go ahead and pay you the rest later. Like, how are you protected?
Yeah.
And there is no legal binding contract saying these are all the stipulations that are going to protect you as a seller. What if you still need to buy another house? Then in our contract, there is a contingency that states, hey, this home cannot close until the seller finds a replacement property.
Yep.
That one sheet of paper is not going to have any of that information.
It's not going to have any of that. Yeah.
And so I think it just puts the seller in a crazy predicament, really.
Yeah.
And it leaves them open to so many lawsuits, and
like down the line. Or even like from the house, like if they
just,
I don't know if they can come back later.
I think it leaves them just not protected, you know? Yeah. And I think as a realtor, my job is to advocate for my clients. So whether that's escrow or like anybody else involved in the transaction, I'm here to advocate for them, to say, hey, you know what? You said your contingency was up 10 days ago. It's time to remove it. And it's in the contract. So if there is no contract, there is no way, there's nobody advocating for that seller.
Yeah.
Except themselves, and they don't know all of the things that they need to advocate for.
Yeah. That's true. And I've had some for sell by owners that like it's the escrow. You don't really have that realtor like calling you like, hey, when are we going to close? Yeah. You know, like you don't have that other like push from like, hey, let's get this done. Like, what's the holdup? Like it's like I've been in some that are like 60 days, or, you know, no one's really pushing it along and making sure that it's moving. So they're definitely, I respect and am so glad when you guys are around to keep these moving.
Thank you.
And then to our investors. Mm-hmm. So with your experience, your story, also purchasing your investment in also a scary time. Like that was a super scary time. We didn't know what was going on. We didn't know. Like hands down. We just like at that point, and like even August of that year, that's when, you know, everybody was laughing. Like, do you remember when they said that we were going to close for 2 weeks? And then it was like months later, everyone just, you know, started cruising with it. But what is your advice to the investors that now, again, this is still back around kind of at a tricky time. Maybe they already currently have a home. I know a lot of our sellers want to move out of those homes, get their new primary, and they could start their investment that way. But what would your advice be to our new investors?
I would say to our new investors, one, the residential market is really saturated. Anything over 5 units is considered a commercial.
Yep. What would you recommend right now?
And I would say that if you're going to invest, the 1 to 4 units are a little bit harder. Invest in anything above 5 units. That's probably going to be a little bit easier. But
like 5 to 8.
I would say
is kind of that sweet spot.
If you're trying to start, I would say 5 to 8 is perfect.
Yep.
They're manageable at that point, and you're really trying to maximize your profit. I think that 5 to 8 is still doable.
Yes.
And I think also one of the things for just in general investment, I think right now there are about 10,000 baby boomers retiring every day. Out of those 10,000, about 800 to 1,000 of them are small business owners. And so I'm helping so many business owners retire, and they're selling their company and their business and their book of business, which is the hardest part of any business. It's to build a book of business, right? Not because it's not a successful business, but their kids don't want to take it over, and no other relatives want to take it over. They don't want to pay for the business itself, so they're like, all right, well, I'm ready to sell. So I think it's a great
avenue.
Yeah, I think it's a great time for Gen X, for millennials like us, to go into that market, because a lot of times that market does come with a commercial space or a
with real estate and a business.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then you're kind of in both fields, which, at this point in our lives, you're starting to realize, don't put it all in one. Make sure that you're, especially when
diversifying.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Especially when things like that happen, when markets happen, it's like you don't panic as much when you're like, okay, well, we still have this over here. It could, at least then you'll still have the real estate, even if the business is, slower, then you still have the real estate building.
Yeah, you want to protect yourself, I think, in multiple avenues. Real estate is always a great investment, of course, but you have extremely successful businesses being sold because people are just ready to retire.
Yes.
And so
I think
that's a great I think that's a great avenue. If somebody was like, hey, Ingrid, here's my book of business. I make $1 million a year, and I'm just using that as a number. I make $1 million a year successfully over the last 20 years. Here's my playbook. Why wouldn't you?
Yes, please. Okay, no one's dropped that offer on my desk, but if they did, I would be doing it. No. Well, Ingrid, I just want to thank you so much for joining me today and all of your insights. And if you guys need any tips, tricks, navigation from Ingrid, she will treat you like, a friend, family, like getting that deal done. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.